It's InfoWars Nightly News, and we're now into the interview section of this transmission. Remember, this news is completely independent of the establishment of banker bailout money. MSNBC, of course, is financed by your tax dollars. We are teleprompter free. This is my research, my guest research, my views, my commentary, my analysis, my crew's research and commentary and analysis. And we are teleprompter free. And we've just got a few days left of the free 15-day trial at prisonplanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. We're also running a special through Christmas where you can get 44% off a year membership. You buy 6 point whatever months and you get 5.3 months. That's what it actually comes out to. So 44% off our yearly membership, and your prisonplanet.tv memberships pays to finance so much of InfoWars.com, prisonplanet.com, the syndicated radio show, the documentary films. This infrastructure we built. We reach tens of millions of people a week, and we couldn't have done it without your support. And then, of course, within 24, 48 hours, it varies. This information is then disseminated off of prisonplanet.tv, and millions of people watch it every week on YouTube and thousands of other channels that are out there. So, again, thank you for being subscribers. If you're watching this down the road and you're not a subscriber, think about visiting prisonplanet.tv. We just keep adding stuff. It'll be 9 years this coming April we've had prisonplanet.tv. We're fighting for liberty via the InfoWar, and so we have InfoWars.com, but then we have prisonplanet.tv and prisonplanet.com so that we don't become a prison planet. Now, earlier I got into the fact that Senator Lindsey Graham and others have come out that actually sponsored the bill in the Senate, the new National Defense Authorization for 2012, and they said, yeah, it affects Americans, and we will arrest you without warrants, and, you know, we'll execute you if we want. I mean, they say they kill citizens if they want. And hell, Congress has told you, the Senate's told you, we'll insider trade, we'll give contracts to companies we're invested in. It's illegal for you to do it, but we're crooks in your face. So take that. I mean, this is just a lawless group of scum up there, except for a few people like Rand Paul. And of course, there's another congressman who's now come out and gone public, Mr. Amash, and he has come out and stated the fact. He told the Grand Rapids Press, he's a Republican congressman, he said that the language of the bill is carefully crafted to mislead the public. And first they tried to say it doesn't affect citizens, trust us, we love you. And once the public found out, they said, okay, suckers, it does. Drones are going to be in the sky. All your tax money's used against you. Just like a third world country, the #1 danger to the people is the military in the hands of corrupt individuals. It was the same with Hitler. It was the same with Caesar 2,000 years ago and change. It's the same system over and over again, and this is the continued crossing of that Rubicon. Now, the reason I raise all of that is this stuff finally gets attention. People are finally listening because it's manifesting, and they've always wanted to use the military on the streets of America. They've always wanted to make it kosher and acceptable so we can live in an occupied nation. The banksters take over the federal government. They then take over the rest of the states. That's what the 10 regions of FEMA are about, and the 10 governors now that are above the states, and the rural affairs with the Pentagon and Homeland Security above it, the Rural Council. This is super creepy, right out of systems that the Pentagon developed for countries they occupy. Very similar to Soviet occupation programs. You can see a fiction movie like Red Dawn and see how the Soviets take over the northwestern town, you know, in a fictitious scenario. I mean, this is so creepy, though, that even as it actually happens, a lot of people have trouble dealing with the reality of it. But it is happening. And now folks are finally listening to us, and that's good. Now, you need to understand that the big issue here is they've already got military on the streets. They're already running checkpoints all over the country. They're now starting to announce what's been done covertly just to beta test the public. And they already, in the last 40 years, turned many of the police into paramilitary. They're just not wearing camo. They're wearing black uniforms and battle gear. So they've already gotten rid of posse comitatus in many levels. But now they're just officially saying, not only are we going to have military on the street, we'll arrest you and throw you in a dungeon, and you're never seen again without a trial. And we'll kill you if we want to, and we'll torture you, because that's what the good guys do. You understand? We're in a lot of trouble here. Now, you know, in the last 3 years, we were sent MIAC, Homeland Security reports, and other documents. It became a big national story, and other people began to go digging around for federal training manuals that are out there. And we were sent this by state police in one case, federal marshal in another, and I've been sent just incredible internal training manuals that we've published here, and a lot of times it does make national news. Now, I don't expect this to make national news because they don't want people to see this information. A few years ago, they didn't mind if folks learned, hey, the #1 terror threats returning veterans, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives, people like that. But they don't want you to know that if you're investigating government-sponsored terror, 9/11, Oklahoma City, you name it, you are called a domestic terrorist. Again, if you're exposing the history of government staging events, which is on record, not just ours but others, it's an old trick, that's terrorism. And this is publicly given out in these manuals now at public events that Homeland Security has where counties and cities with your tax money send police to be brainwashed. And this latest one is State and Local Anti-Terrorism Training Reference Manual. And we'll put a shot of that up on screen here. And the folks that are basically listed in there are people that are investigating the Oklahoma City conspiracy, not believing any official story. If the government told you the moon was made of cheese and you questioned it, that's a conspiracy theory. If you question known liars, that's conspiracy theory. And, of course, I've been exposing Oklahoma City for 16 years. Many others have been exposing it. And the Red Dirt Report, headed up by its founder, Andrew W. Griffin, is doing a lot of original investigative reporting, amazing footwork. It's going into a new film coming out in a few months, The Noble Lie, getting into Oklahoma City with a lot of new information. And the headline is Fusion-Centered Documents Label OKC Bombing Investigators as Terrorist. And it's okcbombing.net. And that's State Rep Charles Key, a representative. Look, if you're a representative and you've got the grand juror who found out it was a government operation, Hoppy Heidelberg, and the former head of Air Force Weapons Development about how bombs were in the building, and you have newscasts of them removing the bombs that didn't blow up, you don't see that or you're a terrorist. Of course, only the terrorists would say that, and we know the Attorney General Holder was the Deputy Attorney General at the time, and his emails got released in lawsuits where he said day one, we got to get down there, we got to cover up what really happened. This is a D-Day situation, was the quote. Then we had the head of anti-terrorism lying and saying he wasn't in Oklahoma City. Then it turned out he was, and we have the hotel receipts. And, of course, we have Jane Graham up on the 9th floor of the Oklahoma City building who witnessed McVeigh and other feds and people planning the bombs, and she thought they were telephone men the day before it all happened. So this is the criminals we have that will bomb our government, so the government then will attack the American people. It's very simple. The foreign banks have taken over. They're now fully imploding the planet to bring in their new world order, and they're going to need to stage some terror attacks. Remember all the memos we've covered in the last year where they were top advisors to Obama? It's been the Financial Times of London, you name it, say, you need a new Oklahoma City, sir, publicly. That will save you. You can demonize your detractors and pose as a savior. And now, when that guy shot the White House who was schizophrenic and thought he was Jesus, they blame me for the Obama deception, which is about Obama being a puppet, and it calls for peaceful awakening. Now, joining us to break this down, I guess, is, according to our occupied, it's occupied. I mean, publicly the Pentagon saying, you know, we're taking over. TSA is going to grope your daughters and sons on the highway, is Andrew Griffin of Red Dirt Report, and he joins us well, from Oklahoma at the epicenter of this. They don't want you looking into what really happened in Oklahoma. You're supposed to believe the fairy tale. Good to have you here with us.
Great to be with you, Alex.
So, Andrew, it says that the website for the Oklahoma City Bombing Investigation Committee, a group convinced that a large Oklahoma City bomb conspiracy exists, members of the legislature in your state are terrorists, according to the feds who actually staged the attack. Of course, I mean, it's just a proven, documented situation. What do you think of this?
Frankly, I couldn't believe it when I read it. When I received this document through some sources that contacted reddirtreport.com last week, I looked into this, and sure enough, it's an official document from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, which is a component of the Department of Justice. They basically work with local, state, and federal agencies to coordinate anti-violence training. So this document was found at a Fusion Center conference in New Orleans in 2010. by some activists, and that's how I became learned about this. And we did the story, and sure enough, it's real. OKCbombing.net is the website for the Oklahoma Bombing Investigation Committee, which hasn't been around since about 2001, when the final report that they released came out, just right before 9/11, in fact.
Yeah, I remember interviewing them at the time. So how dare the group made up of the former grand jury head and members of the legislature and survivors? They're terrorists because they survived it or lost family members, and they were there and saw the bombs removed and the newscast and the footage of it and the pillars blown out and the witnesses of ATF being involved. They're terrorists. I mean, wow. They're certainly scared in the federal government of people looking into this.
No, indeed they are. And, you know, I really started digging into this years ago, right around the late 1990s. I read a great book called Oklahoma City Bombing and the Politics of Terror by David Hoffman. And I really learned about that other side of the coin and related to the Oklahoma City bombing. I wasn't even living in Oklahoma at the time. But once I learned more about what was really going on, about the Elohim City connection with Andy the German Strassmeyer, about the connections into Kansas and Michigan, the militia movement and so forth, my senses started just kind of reeling, because I was like, well, this is not just some lone Oswald type. This is clearly a vast conspiracy. And that took me down the path to interviewing Jane Graham, one of the survivors you mentioned, VZ Lawton, and plenty of others here in Oklahoma City. And in the past 5 or 6 years that I've been living here, I've uncovered a lot. And but there's still a cloud of denial, even with the local officials, with residents here in the Oklahoma City area, about what really happened on April 19th, 1995.
Yeah, just like there's denial about the fact that the Pentagon wants to be able to arrest citizens and kill you or throw you in a dungeon forever. I mean, now it's just all public. I mean, it's incredible that we have these mega banks who publicly have hijacked the country. They've hijacked Europe. They're getting rid of our Bill of Rights and Constitution. They're getting rid of liberty and freedom. And they're using terror to cram this down our throats. In fact, let's show the terrorists. It's under domestic terrorism. So it's domestic terrorism to be victims and to be members of the legislature in Oklahoma and to investigate this. Let's go ahead and put the terrorist website on screen for folks for the Oklahoma City investigation group with State Rep Charles Key, who I do intend to get back on the show. Just absolutely horrible and evil that victims of this attack would dare to investigate. It's so un-American to ask questions. You know, Bill Clinton, right after his election on Air Force One, told USA Today and other reporters he owed his re-election to the Oklahoma City bombing. He was way down in the polls, about 41%, and it went up to the 70s right after the attack. He got to grandstand for everybody. And we know about Gulf of Tonkin and all the rest of it. For you, though, researching it, for new viewers out there, why is Oklahoma City important now, and what are some of the smoking guns in your deep research?
Well, you mentioned this the NDAA bill that is going to be possibly passing in the Senate and become law, and make investigators such as myself or independent-minded people who find there to be real problems with the federal government's version of what happened here in Oklahoma City as terrorists. And that's really what's shocking about this. I think, well, as more people come to find out more information, and I will say, I will make a plug for A Noble Lie, this film that's coming out here with Free Mind Films. They've done an outstanding job uncovering new information, eyewitness testimony that's been previously unreported about what happened, what they saw going on in the building below with the columns and in the days in advance of when the bomb took place. So, you know, the evidence is all around, and it's just a matter of being able to open your eyes and come to see that there was a vast conspiracy, that the federal government did know in advance that that bombing was about to take place, as much as they will deny and obfuscate that fact. So, you know, I expect, you know, as this gets more and more interest among the public, especially here in Oklahoma, because I'm starting to see we're seeing some cracks in the foundation of denial here, and people are starting to think, with bills such as the NDAA bill, and with the TSA and all the tyranny that we're having to put up with, people are starting to say, this is not the America I thought I lived in growing up. And so with the Oklahoma City bombing, I think people look back at that time as a time of a fairly peaceful time in our history in the United States. And, we weren't at war necessarily. And this happens, and it just sort of took away your innocence, of course, with the impact of 19 children dying, 168 people in total in the heartland. That was that's really what really kind of seared the heart for a lot of people, was that this was, not on the coast in a bigger city. This was in Oklahoma City. I mean,
well, it was done because Waco happened in central Texas, and that made the government look bad, slaughtering all those people, and the truth had come out. And there was a big states' rights movement happening, centering around Oklahoma City and your legislature. And so it's very simple. I mean, if you go through all of it, and Elohim City and the Southern Poverty Law Center and all of it, I mean, how they orchestrated the entire operation, it's really nightmarish to realize how dangerous these people are, and to realize one of the chief architects of the cover-up of it is now the Attorney General, and it ties into Fast and Furious, where they're caught shipping tens of thousands of guns into Mexico, not just letting them be sold out of shops, and shipping them to people in Illinois, Indiana, Tampa, Florida, and then allowing drugs to be shipped back in. That's in the Chicago Tribune, that's in the El Paso Times, but never became a big national story that the government's also shipping tons of cocaine in. I mean, this is just a criminal enterprise. I talked earlier about Congress saying, hey, we're allowed to insider trade now. I mean, it's just they're really flaunting it in our face. I would say they're pimping us. They're breaking our will. They're putting cigarettes out on us right now and saying, you know what? We are criminals. And you know what? Investigating our operations, you're the terrorist. You're going to say the government's terrorist or elements of it, you're the terrorist. And it's so incredibly transparent. I mean, they've listed Infowars.com before and gone after me and other documents, but this one lists Anti-War, which is a milquetoast libertarian site, as usual, an unusual site, essentially an isolationist right-wing libertarian site. And it goes on to design to appeal to anti-war activists from the left as well. And it says, Journal of the Moorish Paradigm, Ending Corporate Governance. I mean, these are evil Americans involved in their First Amendment. These are, and people can joke about this, say, oh, they don't really think you're terrorist. Pre-9/11, I have footage in my film Road to Tyranny that everybody's got to go watch. It's free online. The DVD's available at Infowars.com, where it's squad car video of at a checkpoint, and they jerk this woman out of the car and are searching it. And they find a pocket constitution, and they begin hyperventilating in fear as if they had found the baby Satan. I mean, as if they'd opened and it was a dimensional portal into Hades. And it's like they've sworn an oath to it, but they thought it was a demonic entity. I mean, they were, oh, can't believe we found it. Is it legal? And they have a debate about, is the Constitution legal? And I mean, it's like these people are Manchurian candidates or something.
Right. Well, Alex, a story that I've been kind of following is, and I've written a little bit about, and you featured it on InfoWars, was how Louis Freeh, the former FBI director under Clinton, is reappearing everywhere. If you haven't noticed this, he's going to be investigating the Penn State pedophile scandal. He's going to be investigating MF Global. You see these characters from...
He'll fix everything.
Well, it's interesting that John Corzine and Louis Freeh are from practically the same neighborhood. So, and they're from the same fraternity and so forth. So you kind of wonder, is this really going to be investigated or not? And then, of course, you have the Penn State issue.
I'm sure he'll investigate.
So I've been looking at a lot of connections related to Freeh and some of these new controversial stories that have been coming up lately. And
now there's Syracuse and the ESPN cover-up of that. I mean, this is just how they roll. It's a crew of, well, sickos. But expanding on that, what's your view on the whole Fast and Furious? I mean, right there's an example of them shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, but also let the drug cartels knock out their competition and ship that lovely white stuff up into ATF, FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, and several other agencies that were involved. I mean, these are confirmed criminals.
Right. And I was, in fact, this Thanksgiving weekend, I spent time with family in southern Arizona, and the border patrol's everywhere. And I'm thinking, they were, asking us, looking at me like, are you an American citizen? And sniffing how the drug dogs are sniffing, and I'm a criminal,
Oh, yeah, they're not. But the illegal aliens, I've talked to them, that they're allowed to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I'm probably about 80 miles from the Mexican border around Tombstone, Arizona, and I'm thinking, this is happening well within the confines of American territory. Why are they harassing us? And and then I think about the guns, being shipped down into Sonora and these other narco states within Mexico, and it's just, they turn a blind eye to it, like so many things. I mean, isn't this poppy harvest season in Afghanistan right now in November? So, I'm sure we'll, see a rise in heroin, on the streets.
Oh, well, it was like less than 10% of world supply coming out of Afghanistan. But after the liberation, 93%. And now they just admit the troops grow it and they ship it to America. But if you use it, you go to jail.
That's absolutely right. And it's that way with so many of these things that they make illegal. And it's, prohibition didn't work, 70, 80 years ago.
Well, it works to jack up prices.
Well, that's true.
And to corrupt the police so they're in the hip pocket. It works quite well. They've destroyed America quite nicely. And now if you don't like it, you'll just go to a military brig.
Well, that's right. So
you don't like MF Global taking your bank account? Hey, you paid for the Army, here it is. And you're not patriotic if you don't like when they... Have you heard police are now in the news, I'm not joking, saying that it's resisting if when they're kicking you, you ball up. So when the military says, oh, we're going to knock your teeth out, you got to go, right here, thank you. How's that sound?
That just sounds so American.
Well, it is American. And if you don't like it, torture, secret arrest, cowardice, public absolutely under surveillance. 1984 was an instruction manual for freedom. You didn't know George Washington wrote 1984? As an idea of freedom?
Right.
Winston was a terrorist, and so are you, buddy. Would you like to apologize for investigating Oklahoma City and interviewing, I know in the new film coming out, Terrence Yakee's wife and the government killing the cop. But see, that's patriotic now to kill cops that are exposing the government.
And that clearly happened. I mean, I don't understand how the chief of police of Oklahoma City could turn a blind eye to one of his own being brutally murdered as Terrence Yakee was in 1996. That it's a grievous insult to his memory that it's been covered up in such a way. So, that is pointed out in the new film that's coming out, A Noble Lie. And, we're not going to let this die. We're going to keep going at this. We're going to keep exposing this as more information comes our way at Red Dirt Report, with Free Mind Films, with independent journalists who are, I guess have enough courage to report this, because the local mainstream media here in Oklahoma will not touch this topic unless it's, some hand-holding event down at the bombing memorial.
Well, look, they wouldn't be putting people that investigate Oklahoma City in a list of terrorists if it didn't scare them. The terrorists know we're on to them. And some people in the government are not part of the terrorism. That's why they send us these documents. That's why this stuff gets leaked. I wonder if we should try to get in contact with our loving federal owners and ask them, what else is terrorism? I guess having a IQ above room temperature may be terrorism.
Well, I tried contacting the Bureau of Justice Assistance, one of these acronyms that means nothing, and I didn't get a response. But I was curious, how do you end up on one of these among this list? Now, I suspect that this is something they probably dredged up from the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh, no. It's 100% ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center written. Yes.
Yeah, so... but, I'd like to find out what their criteria are to end up on a list like this. Red Dirt Report, is that going to be on there? I saw antiwar.com, as you mentioned earlier, and I was like, are they kidding me? I don't understand it. It's
no. They want to make it ridiculous. And see, it's a psychological warfare precept. When they show cops the Constitution and anti-terror training and say, this is evil, George Washington is bad. For folks that haven't seen Road to Tyranny, we have footage of FEMA training in Kansas City showing it. I mean, you watch it, you think it's absurd, it's a joke, it's real. And they tell the cops, the Constitution is bad, George Washington is bad, Thomas Jefferson is bad. And the cops are like, yes. By it being so crazy, when the cops decide to go ahead and agree it's bad, they have to mentally commit to it and then get excited about it. Because it's so crazy in the peer pressure, Because you see the cops going, George Washington's bad, and under pressure they go, he's bad, and they're all like, yeah, he's bad. They're like, you're good now, you're bad. George Washington, he's bad. I mean, this is a sicko cult. You've got to realize how sick these people are. These are terrorists.
And they're all over the place now. I mean, in the airports, you feel like you're in, East Germany or something in 1980.
East Germany didn't grab children's genitals. They didn't put you in microwave ovens. It's beyond it. But see, it's America, so see, it couldn't be true here.
And that's the thing. I saw this article talking about how different versions of Newsweek or Time Magazine have more explicit covers overseas, and then they'll have some milquetoast cover here in the U.S. version of the magazine. It's just to kind of, keep them entertained, keep them, obsessed with sporting events, and feed them the aspartame and the fluoride and so forth, and they'll be happy. And it's interesting how you really have to go to a lot of, if you're reading mainstream news articles, a lot of them are from Europe. I mean, the state of journalism in the United States is just so abysmal. And I'm a journalism grad. I went into newspapers thinking we were going to really expose a lot of stuff, and my editors would never let me really do the big stories, and that's why I went out on my own and started.
No, they're like, why don't you do a story on what people's favorite color is, or how great it is to have troops on the street corner for the homeland?
Well, when I was a reporter starting out in Waxahachie, Texas years ago, I tried to expose some stuff related to these black helicopters that were flying real low in this neighborhood and dropping some sort of powder on people. And my editor wouldn't let me do a story on that. He said,
oh yeah, that happened here. They even got footage of it. It ended up being in the and they're like, there's a secret program. We're dropping powder, but don't worry about it. We're dropping powder on you. And literally, you can have footage of the helicopter. And they're like, it doesn't exist.
That's exactly what it was. I had eyewitness reports from this, and my editor would not let me do the story.
Well, see, for decades they said there is no world government, there's no international bankers. We're like, they will implode the world system through derivatives. Here's the Trilateral Commission document. Now it's actually happening, and they're like, yes, global government by the bankers, but still you're a terrorist if you think bankers are taking over. I mean, literally, it's now reached absurdist proportions.
No, and I was talking to somebody, a fellow investigator, and I don't know about you, Alex, but there's a real sense of urgency right now that I'm just on a deeper level, that there's so many of these important stories and this stuff needs to get out quickly. And I mean, personally, I am just cranking out stories left and right.
Oh, yeah, no. They're getting rid of the Bill of Rights, Constitution. Under a new border deal, they're creating North American Union, legalizing total Monsanto takeover. Europe just did it, overthrowing their courts. They said administratively the EU is doing this. Tyranny is here. The bankers are making their move. And, I mean, hell, they're on the news saying Americans will be arrested, permanently detained. We will kill you if we wish. Drones are in command. We're saving you from al-Qaeda. And we're like, but al-Qaeda was just given control of Libya, and now they've sent them to Syria. Shut up, terrorist. And we're fighting al-Qaeda together. We'll take your private bank account. Don't complain. MF Global loves you. Corzine advises the White House. Freedom continues.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the drones. I've been writing about drones as well, and I've actually witnessed one of these here one night in Oklahoma City about 2 or 3 years ago. I was with a friend on my porch and saw a drone hovering over our neighborhood and then zip away. Now, there's an Air Force base not far from here, and it could have come from there. But these drones, I mean, they're already out there. They're not coming. They're already out there.
And remember, you pay to have your military that's been taken over by foreign banks do this to you. And now they've announced they're going to weaponize the drones. Now they're going to deal with those evil Americans.
Well, that's right. And in fact, there was a Mexican film that came out a couple of years ago called Sleep Dealer, where the TV show that the characters are watching is called Drones. I don't know if you saw this film, but basically these it's like a reality show where drone pilots are going around bombing like villagers in rural Mexico because they get too close to a water supply, like a dam or a reservoir. And it smacked to something kind of realistic the way it was portrayed in the film. And it was interesting that it was a Mexican film, not an American film.
Oh, no, exactly. They are actually beta testing. I watched the new Transformers movie, Dark Side of the Moon, and they're horrible on purpose. I like that movie, Battle of Los Angeles. It's like the little kid goes, I want to grow up to be a Marine. It's a giant advertisement. And now they're moving on to like the space aliens, because you can't kill the Indians, you can't kill the whatever. That's not politically correct. It's always space aliens. But in this, It's all just government surveillance, brainwashing. You got to remember, large swaths of the public are fed on this now. All right, man, it's been great having you. Any closing points you wanted to make?
Just that, we're going to continue covering a lot of these issues related to the Oklahoma City bombing and the cover-up at reddirtreport.com, and we certainly appreciate you having us on here today, Alex.
So you're going to continue to engage in thought crime and terrorism?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Oh, it's terrible. Ladies, I appreciate you joining us, but I've got to say to people, I apologize for having that terrorist on. Whoa, I'm calling and reporting him immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, whoa. I mean, I was so glad when a firefighter sent me that footage of good FEMA people teaching police and firefighters that the Founding Fathers are terrorists. It was scary hearing about those Founding Father people. I mean, in America, these are bad people. It's totally normal to have FEMA teaching police that. And then I saw the squad car footage I talked about in Road to Tyranny where they freaked out over a pocket constitution. Of course they should. But this is even worse. These people are investigating all the eyewitnesses and the footage and the bombs and making films and interviewing the victims. Those victims are terrorists. I mean, these are bad people. Thank God for Corzine taking billions of dollars out of people's private accounts. Thank God the government's taken the military's death benefits and stolen it. I mean, that's freedom. Okay, I'm going to end the transmission tonight. Thank God they're trying to get rid of posse comitatus and get rid of Magna Carta and secretly arrest and throw the key away and kill you if they want. America is about the government killing you if they want and having no rights. And I want to say, I don't want to be on the terror list. I think I'm going to join the system. I think I'm going to hunt people down like this guy. In fact, he's still there laughing. Put the camera on him. He thinks it's funny. These are sick people. I apologize for InfoWars Nightly News. Remember, our dear leaders are fighting to make America as good or even better than North Korea. They want to bring you the freedom of total slavery. The crew here is a bunch of sickos as well. I just had an epiphany, a awakening, a realization that that George Washington was bad. I agree with FEMA. And by the way, the good thing is it's not just Obama who cares about us. It was Bush and Clinton and on before them, George Bush Sr. And Newt Gingrich calls for world government. I mean, they have all known the truth. They've all wanted to get rid of the family and freedom and private property. And they've overthrown George Washington. I just think it's great. In fact, that's it for me. I'm done. I think I'm gonna go try to join the ATF so we can knock down some old people's doors. They like to find old people that haven't registered a gun right or something in Illinois, and they like their pistol weapon. I'm a good guy. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna go report this terrorist. See you later, folks. All right, keep laughing, pal. Keep laughing. Homeland's gonna get you. They're on the winning team.